The night the Iroko King came for his bride, the drums of Umoji stopped mid-beat, and no one in the village could explain why their hands simply refused to move. They say a story like this should begin gently, the way a river begins as a whisper in the hills before it becomes a flood. But this story does not begin gently, because nothing about the Iroko King was ever gentle. So let us begin instead where the fire was brightest, on the 7th night of the New Yam Festival in the village of Umoji, where the smell of roasted yam and palm wine drifted into a forest that had been listening and waiting for 100 years. At the edge of that forest stood a tree older than memory itself, the great Iroko, its trunk wider than 3 men with their arms stretched wide, its branches clawing so high into the sky that the elders said it touched the resting place of the ancestors. The old ones warned their children never to cut it, never to burn it, never to whisper against it after dark. For once every 100 years, when the Yam Festival lit the village with fire and drumbeats, that tree shed its bark like a snake sheds its skin and became a man. They called him Oba Iroko, but the brave ones, the reckless ones, called him King Ugo. Whisper, though never above a whisper, and never after sunset. He was tall, taller than any son of Umoji, with skin that looked human enough in darkness, but held the faint grain of bark if the firelight caught it wrong. His eyes were calm until they weren't, and when his temper stirred, they burned a green no living creature's eyes should burn. And if you looked closely, if you dared look low enough, you would see that his feet never touched the ground, not truly. He hovered a whisper above the earth, always as though the soil itself refused to claim him. For 100 years he had ruled the forest alone, and every 100 years, for 7 nights only, he walked among men, searching for one thing, a wife. Now, the gift of King Ugo was no small thing. The woman he chose would never age, she would never sicken, she would live forever, untouched by time's cruel hand. But the elders knew, and they made certain every daughter of Umoji knew, that the gift was also a trap sharpened to look like mercy. The moment a woman accepted him, her feet would root into his forest floor, and if she ever crossed back onto the village soil, even once, even by accident, the curse would not simply break, it would reverse, and Umoji itself would wither into dust in her place. So, when the festival fires were lit that year, the mothers pulled their daughters close and said the same thing they always said. Do not wander near the forest tonight. Do not meet his eyes. Do not answer if he calls your name. But one girl was already being called before she ever heard his voice. Her name was Adaeze. She was the 7th daughter of his 7th daughter, a bloodline so rare that the old women spoke of it the way they spoke of eclipses and red moons, as something that happened to remind the world that the spirits were still watching. It was said that trees leaned toward girls born of that line, that roots stirred beneath their feet without being asked. Adaeze had grown up laughing about it, waving it away whenever the elders grew too serious. Nonsense, she would say. Trees do not care who I am. But on the 7th night of the festival, as Adaeze carried a calabash of palm wine past the tree line to fetch water, the great Iroko tree groaned, a low splitting sound, like the earth itself clearing its throat. And where wood had stood a heartbeat before, a man now stood instead. Adaeze froze. The calabash slipped from her hands and shattered against a root. He did not rush toward her. He simply looked at her the way a man looks at something he has been waiting 100 years to see. And he said, in a voice that carried the creak of old branches beneath it, I have searched a century for a wife, and the forest has finally shown me her face. Adaeze's heart pounded so loudly she was certain he could hear him. Still, she found her voice, thin as it was. I am not yours to find." He smiled, not unkindly, but with the patience of something that outlived kingdoms. "Every wife I have ever chosen said the same words on the first night," he told her. By the seventh, they had learned better. Word spread through Umoji before the moon had fully risen. The elders gathered Adaeze's mother and father by the fire, their faces heavy with old fear. "7 nights," the eldest among them said, his voice trembling. "That is all he has. If she refuses him 7 times, he must return to the tree and sleep another 100 years. But if she says yes even once, even out of fear, even out of kindness, the roots will take her before sunrise." Each night, King Ugo came for her. Each night he was patient, then pleading, then, as the nights wore thin, something closer to desperate. On the 3rd night, he told her, "I could give you forever, Adaeze. No sickness will ever touch you, no grave will ever wait for you." And Adaeze, trembling but steady, replied, "What good is forever if I spend it with feet that can never walk home?" On the 5th night, his calm cracked. His eyes flared that terrible green, and the branches above them thrashed though there was no wind. He thundered, "You dare refuse a king twice your lifetime's worth of nights?" But Adaeze did not run. She had begun to notice something the elders had never told her, that the ground beneath her own feet had started faintly to hum. The forest was listening to her too. By the 6th night, Adaeze had a plan sharpened from grandmother's warnings, the same 3 things every child of Umoji was taught to fear on King Ugo's behalf: salt, iron, and the crow of a cock at dawn. She carried a fistful of salt hidden in her wrapper. Her brother pressed a small iron blade into her palm before she left the compound, whispering, "Do not let him touch you until the birds sing." On the 7th night, King Ugo came for his answer beneath a sky heavy with stars, his patience finally spent. "Tonight, Adaeze, you choose, and if you refuse me a 7th time, I return to my sleep. But understand, I have never in 100 years been refused 7 times." Adaeze stepped forward, not away. She let him come close enough that his shadow swallowed her whole, and then she opened her palm and threw the salt across his chest. He staggered as though struck, his human shape flickering like a flame in wind, bark breaking through skin. Before he could recover, she pressed the iron blade flat against the back of his hand, and he screamed, a sound like a tree splitting in a storm, his green eyes dimming with pain and fury both. And then, from somewhere behind the compound walls, the first cock crow of dawn cut through the dark. Adaeze's body convulsed, back swallowing flesh, roots dragging his form backward toward the earth as though the earth itself was reclaiming what belonged to it. His voice, human no longer, rolled out one final time across the clearing. 100 years, Adaeze, I will come again, and Umoji will still remember your name. Then the great Iroko tree stood silent once more, as if it had never moved at all. The village celebrated Adaeze as though she had returned from war, and in many ways she had, but she never spoke of that night as a victory. She spoke of it instead as a lesson, the same lesson her grandmother had once tried to teach her before she ever understood it. That the sweetest gifts are sometimes built to root you in place, and that a woman who knows her own worth needs no forest, no forever, and no king to tell her where she belongs. The fires of Umoji still burn every 100 years, and the elders still say, when the drums stop and the air grows still, listen closely, for the forest remembers everyone who ever refused it.